Hello again, seniors. So this week's video will be a little bit different than the past weeks have been because we'll be starting our extended writing project, and so I'll be walking you through how to begin that. Alright, seniors, so argumentative writing. So my guess is that you've probably written an argumentative essay every year since who knows when, so this should be you should be fairly familiar with this. But we're just going to go over basics of argumentative writing, and then we're going to talk specifics about the prompt that you've been given. So first off, what is argumentative writing? So argumentative writing asks you to make a claim or take a position on a topic, and then to identify, evaluate, and provide textual evidence that offers support for your claim. So remember, in argumentative writing, you're taking a side, and you need to support that side using evidence, but you also have to make sure that there is an opposing side that could say something against what you do. You'll be taking a position and backing up what you say with logical evidence. This is a real world skill, okay? So, and as well as being able to evaluate other people's arguments. So we want to know that you are able to make an argument and back it up with evidence, and not just say whatever comes to mind, even though it's an opinion, and not back it up, right? In the real world, we want you to be someone who contributes to arguments because you've done your research, you've done your homework, you know how to back up what you're saying. And we also want you to be able to recognize when other people are making a good argument or when they aren't, right? There's a lot of information out there in the world today. There's a lot of good information that backs up what they say, but there's also a lot of information that is just people's opinions saying whatever they want. There's no evidence to back it up, okay? So we want you to be able to do those two things. So first off, if you haven't already read the prompt, do that now. And as you read the prompt, I want you to underline or circle any key words that help you to understand what's being asked of you. So words, for example, words like focus, argue, explain, those are words that are going to inform you of what you're actually being asked to do. Okay, so read through the prompt. If you might need to read through it a few different times if you're finding it a little difficult to understand, but underline, circle. You can also underline unfamiliar words, and then you'll maybe need to break down the prompt and go and look up the words, just so you're 100% sure that you know what you're being asked to do. And then once you've done that, I want you to write the prompt in your own words. And there's a piece on the instruction page, if you're doing it online or in the packet as well, where you write the prompt in your own words. And I would like you to use words that you would use in your everyday conversations, and that's going to make it easier for you to understand. Don't just pull words from the prompt and just change some words. I want you to make it all your own. And again, this is going to help you to be able to understand what's being asked of you. Okay, so once you've done that, I just want to talk about a couple of different words that might be a struggle. So one is an ideal, right? The prompt is asking you to look for an American ideal. So I think it's important that you know what an ideal is. An ideal is a standard of perfection, a principle to be aimed at. So you could think of it as if you've ever done track and jumped the high bar, or at least you've seen a high jump, right? They set the bar, and then the person who's jumping, they have to jump over that, right? They have to meet that. And so an ideal is that standard, that high bar, right, that we have to meet, okay? And then embodies. So embodies is to give a tangible, something you can grasp, something concrete you can hold, or physical form to an idea, quality, or feeling. So for example, that film, we could say something like, that film really embodies the idea of freedom, right? That means that film must have shown qualities of what it means to be free. Okay, so we think it embodies that. So those two words I think are pretty significant in understanding the prompt. So once you've done that, you can find greater understanding, again, of what you're being asked to do as you read the student model. Okay, the student model isn't perfect, but it is a good model, a good example of what your essay should look like when it's done. Okay, what it should sound like, what it should look like. So read through that student model. And then after you do that, so go ahead and pause the video now if you haven't done that, and then come back once you have. But as you do that, or after you do that, then I want you to ask yourself these questions. Did the student model follow the prompt? And if so, how? And I'll just tell you it does follow the prompt. So you're going to want to look at, okay, how does it follow the prompt? What ideal did the student model talk about? Okay, so pinpoint kind of their topic so that that'll help you to choose your own. How did then their chosen text embody that ideal? Okay, so remember from the prompt that you're being asked to choose an ideal, choose that standard of perfection, and they even give you some ideas in the prompt. And then you're choosing a text that we've read to back that up, to support that choice. So what ideal did the student model talk about, and then how did their chosen text embody that ideal? Did the student explain why the chosen text still matters today? Don't forget that part of the prompt, okay? You're being asked to say, okay, this ideal still matters today because, okay, that's part of it. And then what was the most interesting piece of evidence used to support the claim? And that's really just to help you spot evidence, pick it out, and know how to use it as well. Now let's talk about the pre-writing phase. So you understand the prompt, you've seen the student model. Now let's talk about how you're going to go into pre-writing. Think about our texts first. Okay, you've read 4 texts for this unit. Just to remind you, they are To His Excellency George Washington, that was the poem that we read. Remarks on the Savages of North America, that was the satire by Benjamin Franklin. Gulliver's Travels, that's an excerpt from a novel. And then the D-Day Prayer. Okay, so you'll have those 4 texts to choose from when it comes to backing up the ideal that you've chosen. So what ideals do each text embody? I'm going to give you some examples of ones you might think about. So first, To His Excellency George Washington, do we see patriotism, bravery, freedom? I think all of those are some you could choose from that text. Remarks on the Savages of North America. How about equality, understanding? Gulliver's Travels, we can also see some equality, I think, in there, and as well as compromise. And then lastly, the D-Day Prayer. Again, we see bravery, sacrifice, and freedom. Those are just some ideas. You don't have to choose any of those, but you'll basically just be choosing one ideal to go with one text and arguing why that is. So take some time now to do that, to choose your ideal and choose your text. And there's a spot on your instructions page to fill that out. That's how you'll get your points. So fill out your ideal and fill out your text. Once you know your topic, meaning once you know the ideal and the text you'll be using, now it's time to start writing a thesis statement. Remember that your thesis statement is the heart, the brain, the soul of your essay. In an argument, the thesis statement introduces what the writer will argue in the essay. The thesis statement expresses the writer's central or main claim, or the position the writer will develop in the body of the essay. An argumentative thesis should be a precise, knowledgeable claim that is clearly related to the prompt. The rest of the paragraphs in the essay all support the thesis statement with facts, evidence, and examples. So that's what you should be coming back to again and again is your thesis statement. Is the rest of your essay backing up what your thesis statement is saying? So look again in the student model now and see if you can't point to the thesis statement that this student used. Can you find their thesis statement? And once you have, well, what is it and how did you know? If you can pick out someone else's thesis statement, it's going to help you to write your own. Here's where I think it is. At the very end of the first paragraph, we get this. Of the unit texts that address key ideals of the United States, Margaret Fuller's Woman in the 19th Century best embodies, and they're using a lot of words here from the prompt, you'll notice. We've already seen ideals and embodies the American ideal of equality because she powerfully argues for rights for a long oppressed group, women. The text still matters today because while American society has made great strides in gender equality, total equality has still not been achieved. So you can see that they've even added in that part that I told you not to forget, which is how does that ideal matter today? The only thing I don't like about this thesis statement, and I think it's really good, but the only thing I don't like about it is that it's 2 sentences. Your thesis statement should be 1 sentence. Okay, so they could have put just an and there to kind of bridge the gap and and make it one. You can do something like that, that's fine, but it should just be one sentence. Now take some time to try writing your own thesis statement. And you're not going to be able to do this unless you've chosen the topic and you've chosen your ideal and the text that you're using. So if you haven't done that, make sure you do that. And once you've done that, start writing your thesis statement. If you would like to send one to me to ask if I think it's good, then go ahead and do that. I will give you feedback. I also have provided some sentence starters for you, just in case you're unsure of how to get started. So you might start with something like, a key ideal of the United States today is, and then you insert the ideal, and the text, then you would put in the text that you've chosen, by, name of the author, embodies that ideal because, and you put reason 1 and reason 2. And reason 1 and reason 2 basically just means reason 1 is what you're going to be talking about in paragraph 1. Reason 2 is what you're going to be talking about in paragraph 2. And then the third body paragraph will be your counterclaim. So you could use that sentence starter, or you could use this second one. Start out by naming the text. So for example, Gulliver's Travels embodies the American ideal of, then you would insert equality, or right, or whatever you have, because, and then you give reason 1, and that matters today because, and then you give reason 2. And that sentence starter has included the why it matters today part that we've talked about. Okay. So I know that's a lot. So if you need to pause the video right now as you work on just the thesis statement, feel free to do that. But I'm going to move on because you're also being asked to start planning these over these next 2 weeks. Okay. So after you've come up with all this, and we are going pretty quickly, just know that that's because U.S. seniors are ending earlier than the rest of the students. But the next part is to plan, and it's time for you to do that by outlining your argument. Okay, this is a key part of the writing process. So don't just start writing, you do need to outline. Okay, I've left here basically the structure of what your essay should look like. Okay, and this is exactly what you'll find in that instructions page or in the writing packet if you're doing the packets. But basically follow it to the letter. I would not necessarily start out with, okay, what am I going to put in my introduction paragraph, except for the thesis, because the thesis is your brain, right? The brain of the essay, at least. But other than that, I mean, you can do it out of order, you can do it in order, it's up to you. But please complete the plan, and then if you're doing it on the packet, take a picture of it and send it to me. If you're doing it on Google Classroom, then you just need to turn it in. But that's what you have to do over the next 2 weeks. If you have any questions or concerns about any of that, if you think something was still unclear, please email me or send me a comment on Google Classroom. You can send me even a private comment if that helps, if you want it to be anonymous. But reach out if you need some help, because this is really how we're going to be able to tell if you're participating so that you can get an A in the class and pass it. I would hate to give anyone an incomplete in their last semester for a senior year. So please do this, and if you just do a little bit at a time over the 2 weeks, I know that you'll get there. Or you can do it all at once and get it out of the way. It's up to you. But that's all I have for you. So I'll